For better or worse, the New York Jets have been a cursed franchise for the past 20 seasons. Save their back-to-back AFC Championship game appearances in 2009 and 2010, and all their franchise has consisted of is losing seasons, lousy coaching, and a revolving door quarterback. But in today's video, I'd like to tell you the story of the player they couldn't draft and the coach they couldn't keep that prevented the Jets from becoming a dynasty. Let's start this off by taking a trip back, all the way back to the fall in 1996. The Tennessee Volunteers have opened the season as the number 2 ranked team in the nation, and led by junior quarterback Peyton Manning, it looks as though the sky's the limit. After convincingly beating UNLV and UCLA in weeks 1 and 2, the Volunteers went into their week 3 game versus the Florida Gators ready to show the nation that they were national championship contenders.
End zone bound and caught for a touchdown. Play action, Manning across the middle and intercepted. Play action, Warfel, end zone, touchdown, Florida. Left side, caught, touchdown. Pressure and almost picked off. In fact, it is caught. Warfel looking for more, flag down, pass caught.
The Volunteers were unable to overcome Peyton's 4 interceptions and ultimately lose to the Gators 35-29. This loss would drop them from the number 2 ranked team in the nation all the way down to the 8th. Following this loss, the Vols were able to string together 4 consecutive wins, getting them from being ranked 8th to 6th and keeping their national championship hopes alive. Until their 8th game of the season, with Tennessee being up 17-14 late in the 4th versus Memphis, they had to show us that they had that national championship mojo.
Scrubs inside the 5 with another first down. Anderson throws, end zone, caught, touchdown, it's Pollard. He laterals it back to Manning, who is tackled, is officially the biggest upset in the history of the Memphis program in their first win ever over Tennessee.
After losing to Memphis, Tennessee sunk to an abysmal number 12 ranking, officially ending any chance at a national championship. And after winning out the rest of the season to finish 10-2, the Volunteers would ultimately end the season with the number 9 ranking, quite a fall after starting out at number 2. A disappointing end for star quarterback Peyton Manning, who had finished the season with 3,287 yards and 20 touchdowns. Manning was expected to declare for the NFL draft shortly after and become the number 1 overall pick, a pick that was owned by the New York Jets. The Jets had gotten this pick after being atrocious in 1996. Under head coach Rich Kotite, they'd gone 1-15. But this wouldn't have been as bad of a situation for rookie Peyton Manning to go to as it looked on paper. The Jets had just brought in Bill Parcells from the Patriots to become the new head coach, and they had great receivers in Wayne Corbett and Keyshawn Johnson. With everyone expecting Peyton to declare for the NFL draft, issues surrounding Manning and the Jets began to arise in the early part of 1997. Peyton, who had been intent on leaving school for the NFL throughout his junior season, had become torn on returning for his senior year because of how poorly his junior year had gone and the fact that he wanted to be a college senior. But he allegedly wanted to play for Parcells and the Jets and instructed his father, Archie Manning, to call Bill Parcells and ask if Parcells would guarantee that he would take him due to concerns that Parcells might potentially trade the first overall pick and use the extra draft capital to build up the defense. After Archie Manning called Bill, not once but twice, Parcells refused to commit to taking Manning at the number 1 overall pick. Bill had studied every single throw that Peyton had made at Tennessee his junior season, and told a friend that he didn't believe in Manning as much as the others. And on March 5th, 1997, after learning that the Jets wouldn't commit to him, Peyton announced to the world what he was planning to do.
I made up my mind, and I don't expect to ever look back. I'm going to stay at the University of Tennessee.
Following this, Peyton would go on to ravage the entire nation in his senior season, throwing for 3,819 yards and 36 touchdowns. And after being drafted number 1 overall by the Colts in 1998, he would go on to ravage the NFL.
Second down and 9. Passing it around. We got another target this time. It's Marvin Harrison. Manning buying time. Throwing, finding the open man. It's Harrison for the touchdown. And Manning airing it out. Fingertip catch. Demarius. Will this be history?
2 Super Bowls, 4 AFC Championship victories, 5 NFL MVPs, 539 passing touchdowns, 71,940 passing yards, and 18 seasons of exemplary quarterback play. What the Jets could have gotten had Bill Parcells muttered these 3 words into a phone. Instead, since 1997, the Jets have been graced with the quarterback play of Rick Meyer, Kellen Clemens, Mark Sanchez, and Geno Smith, just to name a few. But who knows? Maybe Darnold could finally be their guy. Now, to see the second missed opportunity by the Jets, let's move down the timeline from 1997 to 1995. One of Parcells' disciples, Bill Belichick, is in the final year of being the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. With the franchise being in turmoil due to owner Art Modell announcing that he would be moving the Browns to Baltimore to become the Ravens, Belichick was told that he would become the new head coach there in Baltimore. Until when on February 14, 1996, he was fired. The newly unemployed coach signed on with his former mentor, Bill Parcells, for the 1996 season, joining the Patriots as an assistant head coach and defensive backs coach. When the Patriots lost the 1996 Super Bowl to the Packers, Parcells decided he was going to the Jets, and the student followed the master to the Big Apple. Due to Parcells breaching his contract as the Patriots head coach to become the coach of the Jets, Bill Belichick was originally named as the interim head coach, agreeing that once a deal was figured out, he would step down and Parcells would be named the head coach. Eventually, the Patriots would be awarded 3rd and 4th round picks in 1997, a 2nd round pick in 1998, and a 1st round pick in 1999 for the loss of Parcells. With Parcells now being able to be the head coach, Belichick was demoted to defensive coordinator, but agreed in his contract that when Parcells was ready to step down, he would take over the role of head coach. Now, fast forward 3 years later to January 3rd, 2000, and after coaching the Jets to a record of 30-20 and 1 AFC Championship game appearance, Bill Parcells officially announced that he would be stepping down as the head coach of the New York Jets, but would stay on as director of football operations while Belichick became the new head coach. Belichick immediately embraced his duties as the Jets head coach, meeting with Mike Tannenbaum and Scott Pioli to discuss free agency preparations, and talking to the trainers about injured players. That is until 6 p.m. on the same day, when Belichick walked into Bill Parcells' office and asked if he could interview with the New England Patriots, citing the reason as being uncertainty with the Jets changing ownership due to the death of owner Leon Hess. Parcells replied to this request by refusing to allow him to interview with the Patriots, and then told him a deal's a deal. You want out? You're going to pay. Simple. But Belichick still really wanted this Patriots job. He believed that after being Parcells' understudy for 14 of the past 19 seasons, he deserved the opportunity. He would much rather go to New England and get to be general manager and head coach, instead of having to deal with a new owner in New York and having Parcells hover over him. The next day, with Belichick scheduled to be announced as the next head coach of the Jets in a press conference at 2:30 p.m., he began to demonstrate odd behavior. In a team meeting that morning, he was allegedly so nervous that he couldn't stop his hands from shaking and had to call the meeting off early. At about 2:20, Belichick came into Parcells' office and dropped the bomb that he'd be resigning from the Jets. And a few minutes later at his press conference, this happened.
I've decided to resign as the head coach of the New York Jets.
Following Belichick's departure from the Jets, he'd be sent to the Patriots in exchange for a 1st round pick, and the rest is history. On that day, the Jets lost out on Bill's 6 Super Bowl wins, 9 AFC championships, and 16 of the past 18 AFC East crowns. Now, we know Belichick didn't want to be the coach of the New York Jets, but hypothetically speaking here, let's say Parcells had gotten Peyton to come out of Tennessee and took him with the number 1 overall pick. Knowing how these two are both huge football nerds, they even once sat together in a bar for hours diagramming plays. Could Belichick have really turned down the opportunity to coach Peyton? If these two had teamed up, I doubt they would have done as well as Brady and Belichick, but can you really argue that Belichick and Manning couldn't have won a few Super Bowls together? But don't get too distressed over this hypothetical, Jets fans. I think you may have finally gotten your guy.
So